Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing a review of the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is a collection of nonfiction essays that are basically a combination of reflections on the modern human era, while also incorporating a lot of introspection and personal memoir. These essays cover everything from Canada geese to Super Mario Kart to viral meningitis, and they are really wonderful. I am not somebody who has read John Green before, so when this collection first came out, I wasn't really thinking about picking it up, but then I heard some really great reviews, including by my husband, which made me decide to give this a try, and I'm so glad that I did. I was incredibly moved by this collection. I absolutely loved it, and I really highly recommend it. So I want to tell you about what it did that really reached me so deeply and why I think you should give it a try. So the first thing I loved about this collection was the writing. I actually really enjoyed the writing. I think that John Green has a beautiful essay writing style. His words drew me in. The structure of each essay was just so immersive, and they're very short. Each of these essays is just a few pages long, but each feels very cohesive in and of itself. They each explore one single idea or one topic, one place, one animal, one thing, and maybe delve a little bit into its history, but also look into its impact, or the impact that humanity has had on it, or the impact that it has had on him, or his personal relationship to it. And it's just so tightly done, each of these essays, with beautiful writing and a lot of literary inclusions, quotes from other books or poems, a lot of things drawn in together into this one idea, and I just really enjoyed the writing itself. I also really appreciated the topics in this book. I think that the title of the book, The Anthropocene Reviewed, just really makes sense. John Green takes a look at all of these different aspects of the world around us and takes a look at what those mean in terms of how they affect us or how we affect them. And it's really taking a look at that combination, that interaction between humanity and the world. He does quite a lot talking about some difficult topics, things like climate change, talking about how humanity has had some pretty intense impacts on the world and how some of those are quite negative. There's a lot of criticism really of the way that we interact with the world. Things like having lawns which demand so much water for so little purpose when there are so many other alternatives. There's also quite a lot about capitalism and inequality. There's a lot about the ways that we have systems set in place that really benefit very few and hurt the general population. There's a lot about the ways that we have really celebrated capitalism in a way that often is harmful for ourselves. So things like kind of the way that we have shifted our supermarkets so that everything is processed food rather than organic, or things like how we have games like Monopoly which celebrate capitalism, even though the history of Monopoly is quite a bit different from that. So there's a lot about that systemic inequality and criticism of it. There's also quite a bit about the pandemic. This was published very recently, and many of these essays were written up during the pandemic, and there's a lot of influence of that, a lot of reflecting on the way that that has affected humanity and the kind of anxieties that it has caused and the loneliness and the isolation. So all of these different reflections on the world around us and humanity's interaction with the world. It's just really fascinating, and I like to see that kind of reflection. But what I think makes these essays really stand out is that they're not just reflections on the world around us. There are very personal essays. Each of these essays is, in a sense, a bit of a memoir, a bit of a introspection into John Green's own life, and a lot of these essays get extremely personal. I think that the vulnerability that John Green has shown in these essays is just heartbreaking at times, because there's a lot of things that he's gone through that are really rough. So he talks about really openly a lot of his anxiety and depression. He talks about some of the deep depression episodes that he has fallen into, and things where he had to stop working because he just couldn't get up off the floor. He couldn't eat. He couldn't get himself to keep moving. And he talks about working through those and the depths of that depression and how it felt and what helped him and the people around him. It's just very, very emotional and very moving, I thought. He also talks a lot about illness in this. He's gone through quite a few different illnesses, one being viral meningitis, and the way that he describes illness, I think, is really interesting. He quotes a lot of Susan Sontag, which I also thought was really interesting, just talking about the way that people view illness and how people who are ill themselves feel about it. He talks about the inadequacy of words to convey the kind of pain or distress that you're in, and that feeling of isolation in your pain, and that feeling of hopelessness while in the pain. And it's just such good insight into what he was going through. I found it very, very moving, and I really liked the commentary that he had about illness and about anxiety and depression. But on the other hand, he also talks about a lot of really beautiful things. There's so much in this about him finding hope and finding meaning. He's got some great sports success stories here that, even though I'm not into sports, I also felt very moved by. Also some very personal things about his time as a student chaplain when he was younger, and just working at a hospital, and how that both gave him hopelessness but also gave him hope, and other things in his life as well that give him meaning and hope. And he talks about love, and he talks about friendship. He talks about, learning to realize the kind of relationship he wants to have with the people around him, his kids. He talks about his city, Indianapolis, and the way that he grew to love it, and the way that he grew to find meaning in his surroundings. And I just found it all incredibly beautiful and really, really moving. Overall, this book ended up being just really perfect for me. I think this is one of the best books that I've read this year. It is so filled with beautiful writing, with reflections on the world around us, and with introspection into his own emotional state and experiences. I love the personal connection that he forms with each of these parts of the world around us that he's reviewing, and the vulnerability and the way that all of these essays moved me so deeply. I got a ton out of this collection, and I would definitely recommend it. If you guys have read this collection, or if you've listened to the podcasts that a lot of these essays are based on, or if you've read other John Green things or anything like that, let me know. I'd definitely be interested in hearing any of your thoughts, so go ahead and leave me a comment down below.